Wah, wah, wah. Gotta get loose, gotta get loose, gotta get loose. Hey guys, and welcome to part 3 of our How to Make Your Own Workout video series. That was a really long title. So the first video we made was the whole 30,000 foot view of what goes into making your own workout. The second video was about setting your training goal and why that's so important. Today, we're gonna get a little bit deeper into the weeds. So let's go ahead and get started. Hopefully this will be a mind explosion for you. All right, so here's what we've gone over so far. This is what we went over in the first video. We had the whole 30,000 foot view, training goal, time, equipment, facility, blah, 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 blah. So if you haven't watched that video, be sure to go check it out. After that, we went over our training goal. That was our second video, and we went over all the nitty-gritty things. Here's a real quick recap of where we ended on that training, on our second video there. So again, if you haven't watched that one, you want to know more about what the heck all this is, be sure to go watch it. All right, so today we've finished training goal. So naturally, the next step would be, hey, let's move on to time. But here's the thing. If you need a video to tell you how much time you have to work out, then let me make it real easy. You have 1 hour every day to work out. Easy, just like that. No, but seriously, I can't tell you how much time you have to work out. That's gonna be dependent on you. That's gonna be dependent on your schedule, what's going on in your life, yada, 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 yada. So we're not gonna go over time because that's very specific to you. Let's go ahead and talk about equipment and facility. Everybody is in a different place, gang. Some of you may be out in the sticks and you may have rocks and wood and a barn and you are training like Rocky. You may be in the middle of a city where you have several different facilities to choose from, track to run on, trails to run on, whatever. So I can't answer this one for you either. And this is also going to depend on your training goal. So if you want to be a better swimmer, then you're going to need access to a pool or some kind of body of water that you can swim in. You know what I mean? So I can't really help you there. As we start getting more into the different parts of this video and the different parts of how to make your own workout, this will flesh itself out. So we won't have to worry so much about answering that question right now. We just need to take assessment of what's available so we can figure out how to incorporate it later. So we're not gonna go over equipment or facility. So we are going to go over your warm-up. Why should you bother doing a warm-up? You've gone to several training sessions and you've just jumped in and got after it with no problem, with no repercussions, and you actually had a pretty good training session, yada, 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 yada. Here's why you want to do a warm-up, because one, you're going to activate these lazy muscles. Last time we talked about if you go into a workout and you don't have a proper warm-up and you're already moving poorly, all those parts that move poorly are just going to be reinforced and they're going to learn that it's okay to move that way, which is going to eventually wind up in some kind of injury to some degree. Next, you want to release tension. So this is if you have pain at like a joint, typically, let's just take the elbow for example. So like if you have joint pain at your elbow, it's not always because this particular joint is injured. It's usually because something up here in your shoulder is not working the way it's supposed to. So what we need to do is if I have, I don't know, let's just say bicep tension. If my bicep is really tight for some reason, I want to loosen that up. But ultimately, I want to get to the root of the problem, which is what you're going to find during your warm-up if you do it the right way. So we want to relieve those aches and those pains, is what we just kind of talked about. If you have, a muscle that's too tight, it will pull on your joint too hard and cause pain and grief and all that good stuff. But it's also to mentally prepare you for what you have coming up. Like if you have a really bodacious workout coming up and you know it's going to be tough, this is to help you get into that mind space. If you have a really stressful day at work, or the kids are really getting on your nerves, or your friend is getting on your nerves, or your spouse, or whatever, and you've just got a whole bunch of things piling up on your plate, the warm-up is for you to help shed all those things off so that you can focus on the task at hand and have a little bit of stress relief going on, guys. Physical activity is a absolutely fantastic stress reliever. It's also a daily maintenance checkup. And we'll go over this here in just a little bit more detail, but basically this is an opportunity for you to get a feel for how am I moving today? Am I moving properly? Am I too tight because I'm sitting at my desk, hunched over like a troll, or, whatever. So here are 3 things that every warm-up needs. Number 1, you need to stretch. You need to stretch what's tight. Well, how do you figure out what's tight? Well, you need a litmus test. So I put an example down here. Let's say I'm doing a squat sit, which is literally just I'm sitting down at the bottom of my squat. And what you want to ask yourself is, where do you feel tension? Where do you feel pain? Where do you feel like your body is stopping you from getting to an ideal squat position? Once you figure out where you need to stretch based on where your tension's at, pain, all that stuff, then you need to prioritize which ones you need to take care of first. So in order of importance, you want to try to stretch out the areas that are causing you pain or grief. So for example, let's go with the knee. So if I have a knee that's really tight and I get into my squat sit and I feel like my quads and my hips are just absolutely on fire, you want to start there, stretch those bad boys out. And that kind of leads right into our next one, which is range of motion. So what decreases that range of motion? And that's something that you want to head into next after you take care of all the pain. And then finally, what helps you mentally? If there's just a stretch that you enjoy doing because it makes you feel better, great. Go ahead and do that. Moving on, the next thing that you need is an activation exercise. So first we stretch and then we activate. So activation. They're usually a single joint exercise. So again, let's just go to something easy. Let's say that I need to activate my biceps. Most people don't need to activate their biceps. So a bicep curl is going to be a really good activation exercise. It's a single joint activity, meaning only my elbow is bending as I'm doing that bicep curl. Another good example would be glute bridges. If you need to wake up your glutes, that's kind of what we're going for. Okay, so why? Why do you want to activate these muscles? Well, you got to wake up the muscles that are supposed to be working. So let's say you get back in that squat sit and you're feeling it all in your quads, but nothing in your glutes. You glutes or you butt. Your glutes should be activated while you're at the bottom of a squat. And honestly, they should be working pretty much during basically every lower body exercise that you do. So the next question is, well, how do you know what's supposed to work and what's not supposed to work? That's where you go watch our demo vids. Oh man, sorry, he's supposed to be winking. I'll do it for you. Well, we botched that one up. If you've done your activation well, then that's gonna help you decrease pain, and it's gonna help you move better. And by moving better, you're going to decrease pain. By having less pain, you're going to move better. The last thing is you need an integration. You need to put those into practice, into something bigger. Basically, like I just said, it's putting all the pieces together. And stretching should allow you to reach a full range of motion, and then activation should help you stabilize at that new range of motion. So typically you're gonna do this with multi-joint activities, which is basically anything where more than one joint is moving at a time. So you got push-ups, squats, deadlifts, pull-ups, shoulder press. All these things are really good multi-joint exercises are going to help you integrate everything the way it's supposed to be integrated. Stretching, activation, integration. Now let's go ahead and give some specific examples. I know I've gone over a few of them, but let's go ahead and get a little bit deeper into the weeds here. Okay, so for example, the workout is I've got back squats, 5 sets of 5. It doesn't matter if it's a light 5 sets of 5 or a heavy 5 sets of 5. So what you got to do first is that you need a litmus test to make sure what you're stretching is actually having a positive outcome. So in this example, I'm gonna do my squat sit. My squat sit is going to be my litmus test that I'm going to do in between every one of my stretches to see if what I did is actually helping. So let's say I hop into my squat sit. I'm hanging out down there at the bottom of that position, and I feel like my calves are really tight. My knees aren't going very far forward. My hips are really all, jacked up and tight, and then my quads are tight. And this is typical 21st century feels because we do a lot of sitting, says the guy sitting at his desk right now. So what I want to do there is I want to go and I want to stretch out my calves. I want to foam roll my hips, and I want to smash out my quads or stretch out my quads or something to help relieve the tension in those 3 areas that are preventing me from getting into a better, more comfortable squat sit position. Okay, then I need to activate all the muscles that should be working. And in this scenario, my glutes aren't really working that well because my quads and my hip flexors are taking over, so I need to activate those. My abs are always something I should be activating because it's basically where all the energy from your lower body transfers to your upper body and vice versa, right? It's where movement begins and ends, so we have to make sure our abs are activated. And then upper back, because if you're doing a squat and your upper back caves in, that weight's going forward, you're going forward, and then you're going to wind up going viral on a fail video. Let's skip that part. And then finally, we need to integrate this into a bigger movement. I like doing goblet squats because you can use whatever weight you need to. It's going to help you sit up really tall, and it's going to help you assess your squat very effectively. That's one example. Another example would be, let's say you're doing sprints and you're doing 7 sprints at 40 yards. Well, first of all, we need our litmus test and our stretches. So I'm going to use a superhero stretch for this litmus test. If you're not sure what that is, check out our videos. So I get into my superhero stretch and I find out that my calves are really tight, my hips are really tight, and my low back is a little sore from whatever you ended up doing during the day. So I'm going to stretch all those out. I'm going to stretch out my calves, do some down dogs, or, you know, get next to a wall or a curb or something and stretch those bad boys out. And then I'm going to get my hip flexors. I'm going to do like a Samson stretch or foam roll my hips or something along those lines. And then a low back, you could do a figure 4 stretch, a narrow squat sit. You get the idea. Just anything to help stretch out those particular areas. Okay, then I need to activate the areas that were not working. So let's say I get into that superhero stretch and I'm trying to squeeze my glutes to help force a more aggressive stretch out of my hip flexors, and they're not firing. They're just not working. So I need to activate my glutes, glute bridges, prone kickbacks, yada, yada, yada. And then you need to activate your hamstrings, which you could do RDLs to help out with that. And then you need to activate your abs, again, because abs need to be a part of every exercise that you do. And then you're going to integrate those into something that's like a sprint, but it's not as intense. So in this example, A skips and bounding skips are going to help integrate and help us get to a better starting point. Last example, 1 mile swim. So let's say that you're about to get into the pool and you got to stretch and you got to find your litmus test. Well, a Superman is a great litmus test because that's pretty much the position you're going to be in most of the time you're swimming. So what I'm going to do is my shoulders are tight, so I'm going to stretch out my chest. I'm going to stretch out my upper back. Let's say that my quads are just absolutely tight, so it's preventing me from getting my legs up any higher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch out my quads, stretch out my calves, make sure that they're a non-issue. I'm going to wake up the muscles that need to be working, which leads us right into our activation. Again, abs need to be part of every single exercise that you do. So it's always beneficial to do those for an activation. And then we have upper back exercises to help us with our range of motion so that when we're swimming, we can move freely and forcefully through a good range of motion without causing any pain to our shoulders. And then of course your glutes, because your glutes do play a big role whenever you're kicking. It's going to help you move better, move more efficiently, and move with more power. And then what we can do to integrate, rather than just jumping in the pool and swimming a few laps, what you can do is you can hop into a dead bug position where you suck your belly button into the ground, opposite hand, opposite foot. It's very much going to prime your central nervous system to help you move the same way that you're going to move once you get into the pool. Now here are some additional tips for warming up. Here's some things that warm-ups should do for you if you're doing them the right way. One, it's gonna elevate your heart rate. You don't want to jump into a workout cold turkey. Lots of bad things can happen. Whoop, 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 whoop. Your warm-ups should challenge you. You shouldn't just do them for the sake of going through the motions. You should be actively seeking your weak spots, because if you're not looking for your weak spots, you're not really getting any stronger. Yeah, I said it. The next thing is it shouldn't take forever to do your warm-ups, 10 to 15 minutes. If you're doing this every day, you're not going to need more than that because you're going to be constantly resetting yourself to neutral, and it's going to be a little bit easier each and every day, A, to find your weak spots, find your trouble spots, to know how to correct them, to figure out what works well for you and what doesn't. So it shouldn't take that long, especially as you start practicing this more consistently. It's going to help you just find neutral faster so that you can get to your workout and be really effective and intentional with your warm-up time. It's also going to help you decrease the likelihood of injury. Again, if you are getting your body back to a neutral position, it's going to move the way it's supposed to move. Now, if you go into a warm-up and you're not paying attention to these things, that's a great opportunity for your body to start getting injured. So if I go in and I know my quads are tight and I know my shoulders are hunched over and tight, my upper back is not doing anything, but I've got a bunch of lunges and shoulder press coming up, and then after the workout you wonder why you hurt, got to do it the right way. So if you can get your body back to a neutral position quickly, it's going to help you move from a much better place as far as your workouts go. And of course, it's going to help ensure good movement patterns for the rest of your life. Again, it goes back to if you do this every single day, It's like we talked about at the very beginning. It's like a daily maintenance check. So if you know what to look for and you know where you're usually tight or you know what's usually deactivated and not working, you can circle back around to these really quick, and your litmus tests are going to be just like a couple seconds long, because you're going to be like, oh, okay, that helped a little bit, that didn't, blah, blah, blah. You can move on, find what else isn't working, and continually make those changes day in and day out. And eventually you're going to be into a place to where you know exactly what you need to do. You're just going to have to do your litmus test to make sure that you're moving in the right direction, and you're going to be good to go. Okay, so we breezed through a lot of that. That was a lot of information, so I hope I covered it all. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments below. And again, if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you haven't been to YouTube and you haven't subscribed to our channel, be sure to do that, and be sure to hit the notification button so that you know when these videos pop up. Okay guys, I will see you for our next video.